Hello, folks. Look at this. Lovely faces. The meeting is being recorded in official robotic voice. This is very exciting. It's lovely to see so many of you. I hope you can hear me. I think my computer is overloading with the number of faces it can see. But why don't you folks start off? Just drop a word in the chat. Let us know who you are, how you're feeling, what you're excited about, and what the best thing is that's happening for you right now in the chat. And we will give people a minute or two to arrive before we go. Look at all these lovely faces. There's Fiona Barrows doing.
Oh. John, you've muted yourself. Olivia,
because I'm crunching an apple.
I'm not sure what's happening. John, you need to unmute.
I think I'm unmuted. Am I right?
There you go. Yeah. We can hear you.
Just giving folks another minute or two to arrive. And then we will get started. Where are people in the chat? My computer is in full meltdown, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to see all the chat as well, but hopefully it'll open in a second. Yeah, we're getting quite international. Okay, folks, I think we will get started. We've got this recorded and we're going to share the slides and a bit of a summary afterwards with everyone anyway, because there's a lot of people who couldn't make it as well. My inbox has been pretty flooded with folks who said, I really want to come to this, but I can't. So yeah, we'll make sure everyone can hear. But what we wanted to do today, the plan is to make this probably not quite as participatory as we've joyfully attempted to do in the past, but we will have a bit of space at the end of this for some questions and so on. But I hope that the reason why there's quite so many lovely faces on my screen today is that actually there's a lot of excitement to understand where we're up to and what we're hoping to do with this next. So I'll be leading, talking through a bit of a presentation with you, some slides that summarize where we've got to and what we're planning to do next. And then we'll have a bit of time hopefully for a bit of questions at the end. And then there are some very clear kind of next steps and things you can get involved with after. So take the opportunity to just feel that this is a moment in time of excitement, and we will get into it from there. V, do you want to put the slides up and we'll get into it and start talking through?
Can you see them?
Yes.
Great.
I think I'm on slight go slow, so I'll breathe while that comes up. There we go. Citizen Collective, what next? So this is a quick overview of what I'm going to kind of lead us through in a moment. We'll do a quick cast for today, give you a top line that the too long didn't listen / read, and then the detail of it, we'll have a look back over what we've done over the last 6-8 months as we started this experiment of Citizen Collective. We've been doing a bit of a review since our last spotlight call at the end of April, and understanding how we've got to where we are. And so we'll give the key insight from that, which has structured what's happening next. Then we'll get into the plan and how you can start to get involved. We want to be, like, as we've tried to be throughout, be super transparent about where money is in this. That feels really important. So we'll give you a view on that. And then we'll finish by saying some immediate next steps, both for for those of us who are involved behind the scenes and what you can do. So that is the plan for what I'm going to run through. The cast for today, to linger on that a moment, the people you're going to hear from are me, John. I wrote a book called Citizens. If you didn't know that, then I'm slightly surprised that you're here. But welcome anyway. And I kind of initiated this Citizen Collective thing by sending out an email to my mailing list back in about, God, I think it was this time last year, saying who might want to get involved if we try and do this mailing list thing in a way that's a bit less one-to-many and a bit more many-to-many. And that was a kind of birth point for this whole exercise. And some of the people who got involved at that point and have been involved ever since are here on this call and have been involved throughout. And I just wanted to take a moment to name and give them a bit of cred. There were a little group of 9 of us stewarding this over the sort of 8 months or so since it became a real reality. So I'm gonna name and invite to wave in the chat and take some love. Heather Davis, who you're going to hear from alongside me, Tamsin and Olivia today, Artem Zhiganov, David Heineman, Tanya Acampo Garcia, Tamsin, who I've already named and deserves to be named multiple times, Anne Hawkins, Chris Lunch and Braden Beckius. And those people, thank you so much for all you've done being part of this today, and massive creds. All of this that we've done and what's going to happen next wouldn't have happened without those people kind of leaning in. So thank you for that. And as I say, the cast for today, the people you're going to hear from, me, Tamsin, who has hosted so much of this process and so much of the work in this and is totally brilliant, runs something called Mighty Oaks Digital. And if anyone is looking to make a bit of a name for themselves in the social media world, you need Tamsin on your side. So look her up on LinkedIn and so on. You'll hear from Olivia Stamp, who's come into this a bit more recently. She runs something called Uncommon Threads on Substack and so on, and is a deeply wise human being and someone I'm very pleased to be working with in multiple ways at the moment. And the other person you'll hear from is Heather Davis, who's one of the initiating group at the Reaction Collective. And Heather has been the deepest of friends over recent times, and is a very impressive human being. If you need any carbon literacy consultancy, she's also pretty good on that. So those are the 4 people with myself that you're actually going to hear from today, but that wider cast of the stewards who've hosted this so throughout, I just wanted to name and credit. With that, let's get into it. So the TLDR, if you jump onto the next slide, basically where we're at with Citizen Collective, it's shifting form in order to unleash the energy that's been going on here. So Citizen Collective isn't going to continue in its current form. Instead, the 3 things are going to happen. Firstly, the citizen storytelling work, which through things like the spotlight calls that many people have been coming to, and some of the sort of social media work and so on, is going to actually split into 2 new initiatives for slightly different audiences. And as I say, this is the TLDR. We'll get into this in a lot more detail, but one of those will be ACTionism, which has been being birthed by the Reaction Collective, sort of in parallel. Reaction, for those of you been close to this throughout, they were our second citizen spotlight. And that group of people has just been leaning in and building all sorts of stuff. One element of which is ACTionism, and it feels like rather than Citizen Collective sort of competing with it, we're just going to throw some of the effort and power that's in Citizen Collective into what they're already building, and that will be for people who want to get started and hear more. Then the second of those storytelling initiatives is a podcast that I am going to be launching very soon. We've recorded 4 episodes of season 0, and I'll say more about that in a moment. It's called How to Save Democracy. I'm co-hosting that with a brilliant woman called Omazine Khalifa, who was an activist in the Arab Spring, in the Tunisian Revolution, and then became a politician in Tunisia. And she and I have been having some pretty rich conversations. So, but yes, so the 2 different storytelling initiatives. We'll take that energy that feels like it's been really core to what Citizen Collective has been doing, and then the other things. Olivia will host a gathering to explore the potential for Citizen Collective actually to evolve and become not so much a collective of individuals, but a collective of initiatives. and it may or may not still be called Citizen Collective. That's going to be up to the people who come into that space, and we'll hear more about that in a moment. But the idea there is that's the people who are really doing the work, creating a space for them to learn and work with each other, learn from each other, and build more stuff together. And then finally, the Discord workspace, which many of us have been in, is gonna hopefully evolve. This one's a bit more uncertain, and there's still space for this to take various shapes. But it's not going to continue again in its exact current form. But we're going to allow it to evolve into what it needs to be, probably a space for those who are developing tools and resources to support the on-the-ground citizening. So we're going to take our time to go through these in a bit more detail, but we just wanted to give the overview right up front. So if we go on to the next one. Before we go into each of those in a bit more detail, I wanted to take a moment to look back. And so we started Citizen Collective with this aspiration, humble aspiration, as befits most of what I do in the world. I did give the book the subtitle, Why the Key to Fixing Everything is All of Us. So, that's the vibe. And we said at the outset, what we want to do is try and create a global community of practice for people leading and learning for a citizen future, by which we mean one that's built on the idea that all of us are smarter than any of us. We talked about organic phase development, a phrase that I stole shamelessly from a woman called Jess Steele, who was in our last Citizen Spotlight. She leads Hastings Commons, by which we basically meant we'll start and see what happens and try and build it and see what happens a bit more and then see what happens after that. And there have been two main phases of the work. From September to December, we started with a few spotlight calls and a couple of workshop calls and the Discord space. And then we evolved that and went again on a slightly evolved rhythm from January to May this year. And now at the end of those two phases, we've undertaken a review to understand what might happen next. So across those 8 months or so, 9 Citizen Spotlight calls, 8 workshop calls, 1 book club that sprung up out of nowhere, and a whole bunch of idea sharing. And the energy in it has been pretty spectacular. All the past calls are on the YouTube channels. We're going to pop the link to these slides in the chat and we'll send them around after, which is why there's some links embedded. So if you want to pick up any of those and get into more of the detail, you can. But I think just the thing I want to emphasize, like for a group of people initially coming together with almost no resource and then attracting a couple of smallish grants into it, I think what we've done already and some of the connections and relationships that have built out of it has been pretty spectacular. So very proud of everyone involved, including all of you. So that's that. If we move on to the next slide. So then over the last month or so, we've been really reviewing what we've learned from that. And I think the headlines are these. Firstly, we have done a lot of great stuff, but ultimately the reflection is that too few of us really are trying to be too many things for too many different groups with too few resources. And that's occasionally made life a little bit difficult, frankly. But the key thing is that, and the thing I'm actually really most excited about, is that I think we've understood as a result of this experiment what the different parts of the movement are. That sort of grand ambition of a global community of practice might have been biting off a little bit more than we could chew. But out of it, we've really understood what the key elements are and what they need. And really, there are 4. So there's a lot of people who've been attracted into this thing because they want to get started with citizening, this lovely idea of citizen as a verb that our friend and co-traveller Baratunde Thurston uses. A lot of people want to get started with that, and they need stories, they need inspiration, they need starting points. That's one big need. Then there are those who are already leading citizen initiatives and they need peers and support, and they don't need to be doing all of their thinking in the open. Actually, they need to be in spaces where they can feel safe and learn together. And then there are those who are developing tools and resources, some amazing stuff. Artem, one of our stewards, building this thing called Harmonica, which if you haven't seen, check it out. It's very cool. Those who are developing those kinds of tools and resources to support the on-the-ground work. they're doing some really clever stuff and it's very exciting, but they also need space for themselves to kind of connect with one another, build their ideas, build collaborations. And as you can start to sense, if all of those people are all in the same space, then those needs start to cross over and get a little bit confusing. And then the fourth audience, actually, the fourth group, is people in positions of power and influence. And they maybe haven't been so attracted into this space because what we need to do a bit more, actually, is go and smash their doors down and make sure they can see it. So those four groups are what we've understood is needed by this work and who need this work. And so what we're doing really, and you can start to sense from that little TLDR slide, what we're doing really is kind of unbundling this a bit, separating out so that those different needs can be met differently. So without further ado, let's get into what's actually happening. Headlines you've seen already, so we're going to break this down and go through them one by one. And I'm going to let Tamsin and Heather, I think, get into Actionism first of all.
Yep, I'm going to go first. So hi, everybody. Hope you can hear me. Yeah, good. Okay. So as John said, I'm Heather. I'm one of the co-founders of Reaction Collective. I was also one of the people helping to steward the Citizens Collective, and I'm now helping to work on the emerging Actionism team. So let me tell you a bit about it. The term Actionism was originally coined by filmmaker Michael Shaw. It was a working title for the film that Reaction Collective put together, and the working title stuck, as you can see here. We launched the film through community film screenings and have had over 100 requests to date. It's already been shown in lots of schools, community centres, pubs, and at festivals as well. And after each screening, there's been a discussion which brings up a lot of interesting ideas. But more often than we expected, people seem to struggle with working out exactly how they can start to take action. So being part of these conversations and the activities of the Citizen Collective, such as the spotlight calls, the workshops, the book club, etc., it became really clear that the idea of Actionism was starting to resonate with people, perhaps more so in some respects than the term citizening. Sorry, John. Which is, you know, it's tied up with all sorts of ideas related to nationality and democracy that people find it difficult to separate. So, as I already mentioned, where it resonates most strongly seems to be amongst people who want to take action, but don't necessarily know where to start, or people who have started something and want to scale it. And that's where Actionism comes in. A big part of our job is storytelling. So that's connecting people to stories of others, taking action to help inspire them, but also to help them find places and people to join. It's designed to help people uncover their agency and really reimagine how they want to live and what their role is in creating that vision. So I'm going to hand over to Tamsin and Gav, and they're going to explain how our ideas are shaping up and how you can get involved.
Thank you, Heather. So what are we doing is the question. So we have rapidly put together a website, which we're hosting through Ghost. And for anyone that doesn't know Ghost, check it out. It is a very good alternative to Substack. And we've set it up. The URL is there and we'll pop it in the chat shortly. But the idea of the website is to kind of be a home of the inspiration. So one of the things that we found with Citizen Collective, people were signposting each other to great stories, great podcasts, great initiatives. But we didn't yet within Citizen Collective create a way to capture all of that inspiration. So that's what we're looking to do through the Actionism website. It is a newsletter-based website, so you can subscribe. It is free. All the content will remain free. There will be no paywall. However, you can, when you subscribe, there is an option to support Actionism as a movement financially. And John just used a really nice line. And John, jump in if I misquote you, but it was something along the lines of you're subscribing not for the benefits that you will get, but so that more people continue to see Actionism, so that it's not just you seeing it.
I am going to come in and quote this.
Go on,
This is actually Jimmy Wales hilariously said this in a Guardian board meeting. He said people pay for the Wall Street Journal because they want to be the only ones that read it. We want them to pay for the Guardian because they want everyone to read it. And I think that principle applies to Actionism as well. You know, that the ask to support isn't so that you can get exclusive access to content, because that's a consumer proposition. It's to make sure everyone sees these stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, John. So there will be a newsletter that will come out. We'll also post links to our events. There are plans for future editions of the handbook and magazine that Gav and Heather have created to go alongside the first film, and lots more. I'm going to hand over to Gav briefly to talk about something that has emerged in the last couple of weeks, which we're really excited around, called an immersive podcast series. So Gav, if you wave your hand, I'll pin you.
Is that working?
Yeah. There we go. Over to you.
Hi, also I'm Gav, the co-founder of Reaction, and very much on a journey with Actionism, an emergent journey. And in the last couple of weeks, we've sort of stumbled on the idea that we want to create an immersive podcast. And the reason we want to do that, Heather sort of described, is that we want to take people from that feeling of wanting to take some action to actually taking the action. So the plan is to do a 6 to 8 part series. The series will focus on different steps through from anxiety to taking collective action, much like we did with the film Actionism. So we'll be looking for a young person to be the person on a journey and interviewing. And that young person will go to different organizations that are doing the citizen action on the ground. And so the podcast will be recorded in place. So you'll hear and you'll feel and you really sense the action that's going on. And then when it comes to release, what we're going to do is similar to what we did with Actionism, is we're going to launch it at some live podcast listenings. And what we mean by that, the current plan is that we'll have maybe shorter sections of the podcast, each episode, maybe 5 minutes. And then each episode will be followed by a workshop around the theme that's come up from that episode. So we'll be taking people on a journey from anxiety through a set of podcast listenings, different types of workshops, to hopefully at the end realizing that they have collective agency and they can take collective agency. And so we'll do what we did with the film, and we'll release that at live screenings in place to bring people together. That's the current plan. We've just completed, well, we're just partway through completing an application for funding with the Arts Council, which looks really, really, really strong. I'm really confident that it's going to get accepted, but fingers crossed.
Don't jinx it. And I'll just add to that, Gav, if I can, that we're also we're looking at we will need somebody who is our host for that, and we're looking at the possibility at the moment of running some sort of, not a competition, but some sort of scheme where we bring in a voice who perhaps wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to tell stories like this, but is interested in community action and collective action, and we will offer them some support through training with the production company that we're going to work with, through content experiences and communication experiences and training, and hopefully, should we get the funding, also a little bit of money, so that we can lift up some alternative voices as well. So that is the spotlight. As Heather alluded to, we're also going to migrate the spotlight calls that we've been hosting previously on Citizen Collective. We're going to migrate those over to being run by Actionism. And we have managed to secure our next spotlight, or our first, whichever way you look at it, which will be on the 9th of July with a CIC called Playful Anywhere, which is led by a lady called Emma Behrman, and Heather and I had the pleasure of talking to Emma earlier this week. Basically, her CIC is set up to use the power of play to help communities around the country in the UK look at different ways of connecting with their space, different ways of thinking about their communities. She's just done a really powerful piece of work in Leeds, where they've worked with a traveller community there, and some of the insights that she's got to share from that are incredibly inspiring. But we've also challenged her, because this is Actionism, we've also challenged her on that call that we want there to be some really kind of clear and exciting takeaways. So you may be hearing more about like take a walk with the chalk and little play experiences that you can take back to your own places and spaces. And then the final thing for us to say, I guess, is that some of you on this call will very kindly have been using Open Collective to financially support Citizen Collective over the last 9 months. And we're incredibly grateful for your generosity. We're not shutting Citizen Collective's Open Collective page at the moment, because we don't know where Citizen Collective will be in the future. But if you do want to specifically support the storytelling and the inspiration side of the citizen work through Actionism, then we also have set up an Actionism Open Collective page where you can see full kind of transparency as to what we do with the money. And there is also, as we mentioned, the option to subscribe and pay whatever amount feels right for you to subscribe to the website. So that, I think, is about it. I'll put all of those links in the chat now as well. But thank you, I'm really excited. And it's been, this is very much come from all of you and all of the enthusiasm and all of the excitement and all of the kind of amazing connections and conversations that we've had over the last 9 months. And I'm eternally grateful for everyone that's been involved in big ways, small ways, and, you know, motivating us behind the scenes. So thank you.
I love this so much. It's so exciting. I mean, this, even before this call, I had no idea what this immersive podcast series thing meant. I just saw it on a slide before I got on here. This is the joy of these people. They're just doing stuff. And what I would say last of all, I will be kind of involved. These guys put. I mean, I make a little cameo in the film with Ellie Meredith in the Actionism film, and I've written a few bits that and anything I produce that sort of is along these, is in this spirit. I will come to these guys first, and they'll decide whether it's worth publishing or not. But I am super excited. I claim no credit for what this is doing, but I do love it deeply, and I think it's taking on the spirit of a huge portion of what we were trying to do with this. Someone's posted in the chat, by the way, Gav Tamsin, if you haven't seen, I'd love to pass details of these projects to potential funder. So if you want to latch onto the chat, I would head there fairly quickly. Okay, so with that, so that's Actionism. That's only one. I mean, it's a very cool part of what's happening next, but it's only one part. So if we jump onto the next slide, so the How to Save, there is another podcast, the How to Save Democracy podcast. This is a big part of what I'm going to be doing over the next little while. This is the little team on the right. So my co-host Omazine and Joe Barrett, our producer. We had from the beginning of a grant that was allocated to Citizen Collective, a proportion of it was allocated to developing a test season of a podcast, doing exactly this work, and that's what we've done. We've taken the basis of this is the audience being primary audience being people in positions of structural power. So politicians, civil servants, CEO, like that kind of audience, and getting them, dragging them kicking and screaming to see what's possible, basically. And so we're taking many of you know that I've been hosting a series of live events at the Conduit in London that have been recorded with really good high production values. We've had Brian Eno, Audrey Tang, the Taiwanese digital minister, Baratunde Thurston, I've got some more great ones lined up. Gabriela Gomez-Mont, who was the chief creative officer in Mexico City when they crowdsourced the Mexico City Constitution, all this kind of stuff. So the plan is to take those episodes, those events, and then Omazine and I review them together and discuss the key ideas from them. And I have to say, like, we've got the first 4 episodes recorded and edited, season 0. We're about to launch that and use that as the sort of fundraising vehicle to create a full season 1. And like, I don't like listening to myself, honestly. I really hate it. But I have listened to these because Joe made me, and I have to say they're feeling pretty good. So if you want to stay posted on this project, join my mailing list. If you jump to that link later, it's just still the same URL as my website, johnalexander.net. Right down at the bottom, there's a mailing list subscription, and that's the best way to stay posted on this. Thanks to Andy Davis, who might be on this call as well, for building that site. There's also a new film on there that you might like. I'm going to be saying a bit more about that soon. But the How to Save Democracy podcast is going to be a big part of what I'm doing, but not the only part. So just to give you a bit more on what I'm up to, if I jump onto the next slide, I like, sort of humility briefly aside, like things are building, and it's not about me, it's about this future. People are getting hungrier and hungrier to see this alternative, and I think I'm starting to get a bit of an opportunity to do this. And so in some ways, a bit of the driver of this is I hadn't been able to be as much part of Citizen Collective as I thought and hoped to be, because I've been sort of pulled into some of this space. And so some of this is me getting out of the way. But I think that this storytelling role to this audience is something maybe because of the body I'm in, right? Like I got given a 6-foot white boy space to be in, and I can get heard by some people who maybe can't hear some of the other folks who are doing this work. And so my plan is to open the door and make sure they can see it all. There's a new website with a film, thanks to my friends Hamadal and Brendan, Chris Productions, who are incredibly talented humans that you might want to check out. Little film that I'll be posting more. I've got fellowship positions. I'll be non-resident fellow at Harvard University and their Centre for Democratic Innovation, part of the Kennedy School. And also a visiting fellow at Manchester University, so some good traction points to make some noise. I'll be working with Rob Ford, Professor of Politics at Manchester. Touchwood, we're just finalising that arrangement. Rob is pretty well known in British politics, and we've got some quite exciting ideas together. And the plan is that with that sort of work, I'll be writing a second book. The working title is A Citizen Manifesto. So, and I'm planning to do all the same things I did in the work on the first book. So many of you were on that original mailing list when it was a couple of hundred people, and I was hosting Zoom calls to discuss the chapters that I didn't know what to do with. And I'm planning to do the same things again through the writing of the second. So jump on johnalexander.net, subscribe to the mailing list right at the bottom of the page, and I'll come and I'll be in touch. And there's also more collaborations with Baratunde, Thurston, and others in the work. So there's plenty more to come. And that is me. And then the next bit, I'm going to hand over to Olivia to talk about what we're doing, what Citizen Collective may or may not become.
Thanks, John. So yeah, hi everyone, I'm Olivia. I have met lots of you, but not nearly enough of you. But Citizen Collective has been a large part of my life for the last few months, thinking through how we could make the most, as John has been saying, of all of this energy that has come in, but how we could turn that into lots more action in the world. So a collection of initiatives, which John mentioned at the top. So one of the big things I learned from talking to lots of you, thank you so much to those of you who kindly gave your time to me when you're so time poor, is that there's a potential real benefit here in bringing together folks who are leading citizen initiatives that are working towards a citizen future. And they're very loose criteria for what those initiatives are, what counts as those initiatives, but leading an initiative, doing or directly enabling practical citizen work. And by that, we really mean some of the kind of face-to-face, face-to-place local work that is really giving autonomy and power back to local communities, or not even giving it, they're just taking it. So that's the kind of work we mean when we say citizen work. And if you're interested in being part of this collection of initiatives, we'd hope that you'd be interested in committing time to collaborating and providing mutual support, and willing to contribute to figuring out what comes next. So I guess just a little bit more on kind of where this insight came from. It was from all of these interviews that I did and conversations that I'd had, where people said, you know, there's lots of things we need, but a huge part of this is the mutual support and knowing that we're not alone. This work is hard, it's tough, it's tiring, and we just want to know that you know, there are people also doing it who can also help us with those hard questions. Like, the inspiration is super important, but actually sometimes I need to pick up the phone, I need to call someone, and I need to say, I'm in trouble, something's not going so well here, and I need someone else to talk to who really gets it. So I'm skipping around bullet points here, but we have a bunch of ideas and hypotheses about what these initiatives need, whether that is that mutual support, whether it's funding, whether it's support with online infrastructure, whether it's help with facilitation and, you know, how to run your organization well. But we want to not just use interviews that have been me talking to people behind the scenes. We want to get people together to decide together collectively what would be most helpful. And so what we're going to do with the Citizen Collective, and as John says, whether it remains called the Citizen Collective, we're not sure, is that we want to host an in-person gathering in the next month or two to get those folks together and actually have a conversation about what does this mutual support look like in practice? What can we do to make sure that we're giving these initiatives the best shot at being as effective as they possibly can? The bullet point that I have skipped over there is a real commitment to diversity in all of its forms. We're super aware of, I'm super aware of how I look and sound, and I really want to make sure that we're bringing in initiatives that are bigger and smaller, that are run by all sorts of people, and that's just something that is really important to us from the beginning. So if you're interested in being an initiative, or you are running an initiative and you're interested in part of being this collective, please email me on olivia@uncommonthreads.com and I will be in touch about some next steps on that. I'm also happy to answer any questions, have lots more one-to-one calls, have group calls. I'm just really excited to see what we can do with this. So that's on the collective of initiatives point. The Discord and online working space. I think this was another kind of huge amount of energy that came in that we saw, which was from people interested in the infrastructure and ecosystem building for a citizen future. What does it look like to join the online and offline worlds? What do people need? And that is energy that we really want to honor, and we really want to continue that work, but likely under a new name. It won't be the Citizen Collective, and with community leadership, because distributed community leadership we think is part of that work, and we think it's part of managing those online spaces. So I'm not going to talk too much about it here, because as John said, we're not 100% sure or even 40% sure what that's going to look like. So we're going to host a call at not quite the same time, but a very similar time next week, lunchtime next Tuesday. For anybody here on this call today, or in your networks, anyone you know who might want to be interested in discussing what that online space can become, and put your hand up if you want to be involved in cultivating it and nurturing it. Yeah, we're going to be asking that question: what does an online infrastructure to support citizen work in the world look like? There's a QR code there, but once I stop sharing slides, I will also put a link in the chat, so anyone who wants to can come along and we will talk more about it next week. And next, I believe I'm handing back over to John.
Yes, please. So I just wanted to be super, principle of ours to be super transparent with what's happened and where the money is and how much money there's been and so on. We've received 2 grants through this process from the Coral Foundation of 7.5K and OSF of about 45 after tax. Plus there's been some individual backers, of which Tamsin has already mentioned, and huge thank you to those humans who've decided to kind of chip into this and support it throughout. Massive statement of belief in what we've been doing. Approximately 27K has been dispersed already to support what we've done to date, those sort of 8 months of work. Which means approximately 25K outstanding. 9.5 was allocated to the How to Save Democracy Season 0 work under the original OSF grant allocation. The plan from here is that 5.5 will be allocated to that initial convening of the collective of initiatives and we're stumbling around the language a bit on this because we sort of want to call it Citizen Collective and say Citizen Collective is now a collective of initiatives rather than individuals, but actually in the spirit of that group of people needs to decide what they want to be called. So this the hazard of collective action, people, is that you need to create space for it, and then it's very hard to name. But there will be, we've between the group of us decided, like, allocated a little bit of money to that to say this feels really important and it doesn't feel like it's happening yet. So let's create a good space for people to actually be able to figure out what that needs to be. And Olivia, I know I've seen Olivia in action hosting some of these sorts of spaces. She's phenomenal, and so people will be able to kind of understand and come together and see what they want to do. I've already met bunch of the people who are doing this kind of work who I hope might come along to this. They are the sorts of people who've been the subject of our spotlight calls. Folks at Colville Can, I'll be tapping Dina and Ian to see if we can get them along. Jess Steele at Hastings Commons maybe, but also folks who are starting to do stuff that's a little bit different, a little bit more kind of across the board, like Fiona Barrows, who with her community councillor collective idea. A guy called Ollie Whittington's building something called Our House, looking to crowdsource people's charters across the country and beyond. There's some really exciting work there, and I think a lot of those people know that feel that there's something that they could learn from each other, and that pooling their resources and their energy rather than just doing their own funding bids and so on could be something very powerful. So very excited for that. And then the remainder of the reason I'm not putting a specific number to it, or we haven't put a specific number to it, is because it will sort of be the rest. Will be a kind of starting pot for Actionism to do its work in the world. All of that is fully transparent and will remain fully transparent on our Open Collective page, so you can see the amounts and how they're being allocated there. So with that, the sort of summarize and immediate next steps, there's been people asking for emails and things like that in the chat, so just to make sure we've covered all that. How to Save Democracy will be launching season 0 imminently, and I will send out emails. My mailing list is at johnalexander.net. Like I say, get to the bottom of the page, you'll find an email sign up there. Actionism is live and it's very cool. I was about to swear, but I don't know who's got children around. I'm so excited by this. I just think it looks amazing. So actionism.space is the website for that, and you can do all the things you might need to do via that. And then if you are running something that you think, whether you could come to an in-person gathering or whether you've got learnings that you'd want to chip in, or sense of what you need in the world, if you're leading or working on a citizening initiative, then email Olivia, offer her your learning and information, or say you'd like to be part of that, and she'll be in touch. And then similarly but distinctly, Olivia is also going to be hosting that meeting next Tuesday, 12:30 to 1:30, for those who have been in the Discord already and want to sort of see how it could evolve. That'll be more Olivia just sort of holding that space for those folks to figure out what they want to do together. So those are our key things. So I guess if we take down the slides, and maybe we've got sort of 15 minutes or so of this call slot, and very happy to kind of hear from folks. Any reflections, any sort of particular encouragements or suggestions, or any questions or concerns, like, we really want to hear them. But I guess just to sort of close that sort of presentation phase from me, and then just to say, like, I'm ever more excited. Like, I posted on LinkedIn today that the little bit of text that Ariana Conrad, who I wrote my book with, and I put on the back cover of the book. I'm spotlighted. There I am, big. The bit of text we put on the back of the book was, the headlines of our times are enough to make anyone feel helpless, but when we start to think and act like citizens, not just consumers, everything changes. And I mean, my life has gone completely mental. I've been bouncing around all over the place, particularly over the last 6 months, particularly over the last 5 months, actually, since a certain human being, quasi-human being, entered the White House again. And the headlines have got worse and worse, but actually the space is opening and building. And I can tell you, I've just been in Montana in a state that, in a red state, on a cattle ranch with folks who most people would assume to be a certain thing, and they're really not. Like there's that I was visiting, what I ended up realizing I was part of was a regenerative agriculture, community wealth building, cooperative movement of human beings who also happen to have pretty spectacular moustaches and hats and read cowboy poetry to one another. Human beings are citizens by nature. I'm now, like, I wrote it in the book and I sort of wrote it slightly hopefully. The last 3 years has demonstrated to me that it's an actual fact. And if we can sort of build this stuff, this is the work. So I don't want to get too kind of lyrical and stuff, but I really believe in this, and I think Actionism, the stuff I'm trying to build, the space that Olivia's going to foster and try and hold, I think these things and where the Discord might go are hopefully contributions to that. And I think anyone who's been part of anything over the 8 months or so of this work of Citizen Collective has been part of that, and so thank you for that. So I will shut up and stop getting overly lyrical and we'll maybe just take a moment and see if anyone wants to raise a hand. I think Tams and Olivia are keeping an eye, but if anyone wants to raise a hand or pop a question in the chat, we've got 10 or 15 minutes just to make sure we hear from folks. So yeah, I'll pause there and hold an awkward silence briefly.
Can I jump in? Hang on a minute. It's me, Susan.
The other option in true Citizen Collective spirit might be to pop you all into groups. Oh, Susan, hello.
Hi. I put something in the chat about Byline Festival, which is where I'm going to be next month. Don't know if anybody else is going, but it's a really, really strong platform for independent thought and reporting and agnostic journalism. And people like Sonia Purnell and Carol Cadwallader is going to be there. She's keynoting. And obviously Stephen Jukes and, you know, all of those sort of people, George Monbiot and so on, they're usually present. And I'm just wondering, how can I carry a message of some sort, some message for what's happening here? How usefully can I, apart from just talking to people about it, is there something that I can do that will help me not just sort of knock about in the space, but actually, you know, talk? Well, I will be talking to people like Hardeep Matharu and Peter Jukes and so on, because I know them.
Amazing. Well, I think the first thing to say would be tell them about Actionism in particular. I think if there were a content partnership between Byline and Actionism, I would still tend to argue Byline Times has been a little bit fixated on the problems rather than telling quite enough stories of the joy. So maybe there's fun to be had.
That's only Byline Times though, because Byline Media.
I know the festival has a huge space.
Podcast with Adrian Goldberg and all of that.
Yeah, but I think Actionism could be a really good partnership. We'll get you a t-shirt.
Yeah,
Oh, I like a t-shirt.
If you stand still long enough, Gav will patch you with an Actionism banner. But yeah, maybe I don't know. I can't speak for John and for Olivia, but certainly like I'm happy to explore from an Actionism point of view as to like.
Okay.
I think those are the two things. So Actionism. So if you will put you in touch with Tamsin directly after the call for how you can rep Actionism, and I will make sure that I send you some stuff on how to save democracy and what we're doing as well. Those are the two things that feel really good to equip you with. Thank you so much, though, Susan. Ambassador in this would be amazing.
One more thing is I'm also connected to the FITO network of networks. I don't know who else is. But how do we get that together? Do we get it together?
That sounds like a conversation between you and Olivia, I think, on that
Okay.
one. So if you could email Olivia at uncommon-threads.com on that one.
I've got the email address, thanks.
So
Nick.
those, yeah, that's how the split out will work, I think.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Susan. Great to have your enthusiasm in this. And enjoy Byline. I'm sure it'll be amazing.
Thank you, I will.
I can see Nick has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I just want to say, I did write in the comments, I just wanted to, it's more of a reflection than a question or anything. I just wanted to, I think, give some appreciation to all of the great work that I've experienced through Actionism, and obviously reading your work, John, as well, around this idea of just the reducing the barriers to entry to the work that we all do and believe in. I think that I've become, through the work that I've done around, you know, sustainable business, ethical business, responsible business, things like that, there does seem to be a sort of maybe a slight elite part to this, a privileged part to this. So I think I very much welcome that calling out of that intersectional privilege that obviously I'm aware of myself as well. But also just this idea for myself, I've gone further into this idea of what does connect us, and where I believe love is often a big part of that and doesn't get talked about enough within these communities where we can begin to shame and judge others. So I think that's where my work has more gone towards the coaching and the kind of intersectional part of the inner wisdom that we hold, the intuition that we hold when we can sort of balance our nervous systems more. And the Actionism movement has been so powerful for me because it's allowed people that otherwise wouldn't have got into these conversations to explore this idea of actually all I'm doing is following the things that I love or with the people that I might want to connect with. And through that, the power of that film then led to conversations that I've not really experienced in the work that I do with people that are, we would consider maybe not within this world, and I think that's how we begin to create these movements of people doing things. So it's more of a reflection. I'm going to be doing another screening, so any more of the information that you have, and I'm connected with Gav and Heather, and I've really sort of feel privileged to have got to know them more, because it does feel like this is the unique space where things are joining, where you don't have to meet this level of I'm a climate scientist, I'm a sustainability strategist, I'm whatever. It's just I am just a human, I am a citizen. So yeah, it's just a reflection to say from my perspective, I can feel the movement of what you're all doing to be something really quite powerful. So yeah, that was me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nick. I actually feel like Ellie Meredith, are you still on this call? I saw your name pop up. Can you say hello if you are? Put up a hand. Are you there,
Hello,
Ellie?
I am here, but I'm on a call. I'm driving, I'm afraid. Well, not driving, I'm in a car, so you won't be able to hear me very well. I know everyone. Thanks for all the love.
Yeah, just to give Ellie a bit of a big up. Ellie is the if you haven't seen the Actionism film as yet, then please find a way to see it. Organise a screening in your community like Nick has done. It's a real thing. And Ellie and I just recently did a podcast. We were interviewed together by Deutsche Welle, which is the German equivalent of BBC World, and it was I mean, the interviewer made me cry about 3 times, and then Ellie got started. So it was quite a thing. I hope we'll try and find the link and pop that in the chat. But just a quick big up to Ellie for the role she's played in all this as well, and we'll continue to play. I've got a Kate Pound hand as well. What would you like to say, Kate?
Yeah, hi. I feel like my head's spinning because there's been so much information sent. Will there be like some summary, because there's lots of websites and everything, because my head's kind of like, oh, it's this, it's that. It just was a bit overwhelming. So I just wondered if there's going to be sort of like a breakdown of some sort of like places to go, if that's okay.
Yes.
I don't know if there's an opportunity for this. So I'm really excited, love the book, think some great opportunities. Whether there's going to be like groups, so I work in the NHS, so whether there'll be some people that would be interested in starting looking at activism in healthcare or something, whether there's opportunities.
Tamsin's nodding. I don't know if you want to say anything to that first, Tamsin, maybe say a word about what we've got follow-up as well.
Yeah, thank you.
You're on mute.
So, I'm not.
I can hear.
You're back now.
So from an Actionism point of view, we're pulling together our themes. We haven't yet kind of put live the health and well-being theme on the site because we are yet to populate it with any content. So maybe that is a good place to start, and we can reach out to you, or you can reach out to us. I think if you're talking more in terms of like connecting people within health and well-being, like, I don't know, Actionism very much is about helping you find your people. So it could be a good place to start. But it might also be that you want to chat to Olivia in terms of like the initiatives of initiatives.
I'd love to see if we can get a screening maybe of the film in, well, I work in NHS England, so it might not be around a lot longer, but maybe there's an opportunity to screen it in there, because I know there's lots of people that have got lots of interest in the book, and you know, there's a little group of us that kind of like want to like putting this forward more and more.
Brilliant. We'll reach out. Thank you.
Thanks. And what I would, I've got a couple more things for you, Kate. Firstly, just to say very explicitly, folks, we know we've shared a lot of information. We've been sort of staring at this very closely for a while, and we're very excited to share. And that excitement probably comes over as slightly overwhelming. So we will be sending out a recording of this call, so you can watch it on -3 speed instead of +3 speed like you usually do, and we'll send out an email with the slides linked as well, so you can take your time to look over the links and have a dive around. So we will make this a bit more penetrable for folks. And then one other little direct suggestion for you, Kate, if you look up a lady called Olivia Butterworth, she was part of NHS England for a good while, and Olivia is in fairly close contact with me. Yeah, with me and with the team at New Citizen Project as well, which is another whole element of this. The consulting work the New Citizen Project is doing continues, so there are plots afoot on that front too.
So I used to work in Horizon, so I kind of know.
Thank you, Kate.
That group.
Good stuff. Any more before we wrap up and give everyone a wave? I just want to, in that case, we'll close up, but just to give a hearty wave to a few folk who I see on the call who I know are doing great work in their places. Adam Pickering in Nottingham, Joel Rodker in Norwich. There's some wonderful folk doing wonderful work, and I could name many more. Those are just faces I immediately see on the screen. So I hope this feels like it's an evolution of this work that is going to help and support you well. I think it feels to us like it's unleashing the energy that we know can be unleashed, and we will be sending round, as I say, sending around the recording and some file and some sort of links and so forth very soon. Good luck, everyone. Let's do this thing, and goodbye for now.
Everyone. We'll see how long I can get away with hanging out for.